Hello and welcome back to Hawk Talk episode number 29 as we begin a brand new academic year here at Monmouth University. We were so happy to have Jim Pilar, the Associate Vice President of Residential Life, on last week to talk about all the students moving back into the dorms, the safe protocols and policies in place behind that. If you missed that conversation, you can check it out in a variety of places in monmouthhawks.com, here in the video tab on the Athletics Facebook page, as well as youtube.com/monmouthhawks. That was the subject of the week a week ago. Tonight, it's fitting with the U.S. Open coming up this weekend that we bring in the head coach of Monmouth Men's Golf, and we say good evening and hello to second-year head coach Bill Britton. Coach, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, Eddie. How are you?
No, I'm doing very well, Coach, and it's so good to see you. We were just talking off air that kind of missed those interactions in the office when we could catch up in the hallway or around the mailboxes, but it's so good to see you here tonight. And before we talk anything about your illustrious career on the PGA Tour, anything Monmouth golf related, first have to ask how you and how your family are doing.
Well, we're all good, thank God. We've got 4 children, and they're ages 24 to 30, and the 3 oldest ones have been living out of the house, but 2 of them have been back. One, she's been living in California, so she's been home for 3 months, actually. They're all working remotely. So she's been back for 3 months, and our other one came home out of the city. Her lease was up, just like so many young adults are, right? And all their friends have been home. So it's been great to have them home, and we've all been healthy. So it's been pretty nice, actually.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, so many of us that live on the go, that are busy all year, we've had time to, over the last few months, eat more dinners with the family, be around a little bit more. And I think that's one of those silver linings that we've talked about. It's been a theme on these conversations. And you now getting ready for year number 2. Obviously, year number 1 didn't quite go the way any of us thought a season ago. And Coach, when you look last year at your first year with the Monmouth men's golf program, what are the things that stood out to you if you kind of look big picture about being back in the college game and being a head coach?
Well, it was all brand new for me. And in retrospect, it gave me a chance to just kind of learn what this is all about. Of course, I've been around golf for a long time, but I've never coached golf. And coaching is a little bit different than teaching, and I love doing it. It's a different way of being involved in golf, and we have 9 guys on the team, and it's such a pleasure for me to be around these 9 young men that really like golf, because I love golf, and I spend my day, typically have spent my days at the golf course, and sometimes I'm around people, that like it, but our guys love it. And we got a great group of guys, so it's been a pleasure to be around them so far and kind of learn them and how they go about doing things.
If you have a question for Monmouth men's golf head coach Bill Britton, either about his career on the PGA Tour or about this Monmouth men's golf program, you can submit it into our Facebook Live chat.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to relay that question right over to Coach. And, Coach, I think that's where we start. You mentioned how coaching in college is new to you, but you've been teaching the game of golf for so long. So as you get into that groove and learning all of the different NCAA rules and compliance and all that, what are those things that you plan and that you have taken with you from instructing and teaching golf for so many years that you bring over to that Monmouth men's golf program? Obviously, not even counting your time as a professional, but from when you were an instructor, what are those things, those parallels, if you will, between kind of instructing, coaching it outside of the college game and then now as a college coach?
Well, it's interesting because coaching, right from the beginning, the kids had a lot of questions for me, and they like to talk about golf, and they want to talk about golf. And I think just in general, I don't know if you play golf, but people that do play golf, they want to talk about it a lot. And I think that's a healthy thing to talk about it. And hopefully, whatever experience I might have, I maybe point them in the right direction. Sometimes it's easy to, whether it's our technique or however we're thinking, to go down the wrong road, especially when we're younger. So teaching, most teaching I do, it's pretty technical, just trying to help people hit the ball and get it to go fairly straight. And our guys are pretty good at that. So far, I've kind of stayed out of their way in terms of their technique. It's just been more kind of course management and that sort of thing.
When the situation that we find ourselves in now kind of started unfolding, one of the first things we could do was get outside and play golf. Our producer tonight, Gary Kowal, I know does a bunch of it, and he's a phenomenal golfer. Coach, you asked if I play. I wouldn't subject you to watching me play golf because it's not a pretty thing. Have you had a chance, and I guess as we get ready for the school year, but go back to those times in May when the courses opened up. Did you have a chance? Were you one of those first people on the links right away as soon as we were allowed to get outside and start playing?
I got out there a little because once we did open, I also still teach golf a bit. So once we did open, I was pretty busy teaching, but it was a pleasure the first day I did get out to just see people and be outside and to play. It's just people and just do the things that we enjoy doing. And fortunately, golf's one of them that we have been able to do.
The last year, Coach, your first year at the helm of the program, you get 7 events into the year before everyone is sent home in March when kind of sports stopped. If you assess where the team was at that point to where they are now when they came back to get ready to again compete, no fall season, but hopefully in the spring, where is this program in your opinion right now? What are they doing well, and what do you think they need to work on to ultimately contend for a MAC championship?
Of course, we haven't been able to be with them on the golf course yet, so I don't really know where they're at now. I know a couple of the players did well over the summer in the tournaments that they played in, and I know they've been playing and practicing quite a bit. So hopefully we've made a little bit of a gain in that department. And what do we need to do better? I feel like, I think that they're a lot more talented than they might know. I mean, I see them as being talented. I think they're a great group of guys. They get along really well together. And I think they're as talented as anybody that we play against. I wouldn't say that we're more talented, but I don't believe we're any less talented. But I think, putting myself in the spot here, they need to be coached. They need to learn how to play and also how to practice, how to make the most of our time, those 20 hours that we get each week. And it takes a long time, at least it took me a long time to learn how to practice. I'm talking years, and I'm a slow learner, so you may not go by me, but it took me a long time to really learn how to practice effectively. And I think that could be said for any young person today. So hopefully I could help them out in that department.
Well, you really are a humble gentleman, Coach, because you shortchanged yourself, spending as many years on the PGA Tour as you did, 15 years on the tour. You mentioned talent. You obviously recognize talent when it comes to the golf course incredibly well, and we know that as soon as the student athletes are ready to compete, they're ready to roll. But when it comes to talent, you know it. It's fitting this week we're talking. The U.S. Open is at Winged Foot this weekend. It's such a fascinating story. You, as a teenager, got to view the U.S. Open at Winged Foot, and then 10 years later, you got to play in it, Coach. I can't even imagine what that must have been like. Let's first go back to the first time when you were there as a teenager and you saw it at Winged Foot. What were the experiences like for you being able to see such incredible high-level golf at such a young age?
Well, that was very exciting. I grew up in Staten Island, New York, and Winged Foot is in Westchester County in the town of Mamaroneck, so it's on the north side of the city. So any golfer knows that Winged Foot is one of the greatest golf courses in the country, probably one of the greatest golf courses in the world. And so I had never been there prior to going up. I went up on Saturday of the U.S. Open week. It was my senior year of high school. It was right around graduation. And you know, growing up in Staten Island, New York, I grew up on New York City public golf courses. So the greens, you know, for anybody that plays golf, greens are very slow. And, you know, going to watch a U.S. Open, and that U.S. Open was brutal, 7 over par 1. And the greens were so hard and so fast. So I saw, you know, a golf course like I'd never seen before. And I got to watch Gary Player play with Arnold Palmer that day, two of the greatest golfers ever. And there were people in trees watching, there were people everywhere. So that was really exciting for me just to see what that was like, to see the golf course and then to see those players.
It's just an unbelievable. I mean, just the names that you throw out. It's the history of the game when you talk about those individuals. We're going to talk a little bit more about your professional career because you got to play in the U.S. Open at Winged Foot, which I know was special for you. But before we do that, we do have questions coming in. Our first question tonight comes from Michael. Michael's in South Jersey tonight, and we appreciate you watching our Hawk Talk episode. And Coach, Michael wants to know, what is your all-time favorite course to play?
Probably Pebble Beach. If I had one place to play, just because of the scenery itself is spectacular. Even if you weren't playing golf, if you just walked around the property, it's just a really magnificent piece of property. And then the golf course itself is great. So I always felt like if the golf course in the middle of Iowa, it would still be a great golf course. But it's right on the Pacific Ocean. So that would probably be my one place to play.
Our next question comes in, and it's fitting the location of the question. So we're going to take a brief pause, Coach, before we get to your professional career. I know before you got to Monmouth, you spent 10 years as the director of instruction, Trump National Golf Course in Colts Neck. Well, Colts Neck is where our next question comes from tonight. Michelle is in Colts Neck, and Michelle, thank you for watching. And Coach, Michelle wants to know, in your opinion, what the future of Monmouth men's golf looks like, and specifically, what do you look for in potential recruits?
Well, the first part of that, what's the future of it look like? The guys are going to work harder than they have in the past. That's one. I don't think there's any reason for us to be outworked by anyone. We all have the same number of hours to work each week, so we're going to do the very best we can with the time that we have. And what do I look for? I look for somebody. First thing is probably a good person that I feel will get along with everyone on the team. I think that's my first criteria that I look for. And then I would look for somebody that loves golf, because if you love it, you're willing to do the little things that people that don't love it aren't willing to do. And those, I believe, are the things that enable you, to be more dedicated and to get closer to reaching your potential.
The questions are coming in for Monmouth Men's Golf head coach Bill Britton. If you have a question, again, please submit it into our Facebook live chat. Before we took a little detour to get to those two questions, Coach, it was interesting to hear you detail your experience as a spectator at Winged Foot back in 1974, but then fast forward 10 years later, and as a Florida Gator, which is where you spent your collegiate time, you got to participate in the 1984 U.S. Open at Winged Foot. So now take us from the gallery to the tee box in 10 years, and what was that experience like for you?
Well, again, for me, it was local, and in golf, you don't get to play many local tournaments. But local in the sense that, again, it was New York, and again, coming from Staten Island and playing at a U.S. Open at Winged Foot. Of course, whatever major, just playing on the tour for me was very exciting. And then to play in a major in New York at Winged Foot and the U.S. Open. So obviously that was very special for me. And, it was like, I feel like it was like if you're a baseball player playing in Yankee Stadium. So I was just so excited, probably too excited to play my best, but it was just great. The golf course is so difficult, and it's really, any U.S. Open pretty much would be the ultimate challenge in golf. But to go there and a friend of mine's dad, who I had tremendous respect for, was a golf professional there for years. So it was special just being there.
Well, it's quite the journey, again, from a spectator as a youngster to competing there as an adult. It's truly remarkable. And obviously, the 120th U.S. Open will be there this week, obviously postponed because of the pandemic. So it all kind of comes full circle here on our 29th episode of Hawk Talk with Monmouth men's golf coach Bill Britton. As our next question comes in for the head man of the golf program, Lynn from Jackson checking in. And Lynn is a regular viewer and contributor to our Hawk Talk series. And Coach Lynn wants to focus in a little bit on your tremendous professional career. What, in your opinion, is the highlight of your professional career, and how does a major championship compare to some of the other events on tour?
Well, the majors obviously get the most hype, as they should, right? They have the best fields on the most difficult golf courses. Maybe, in my opinion, maybe a little bit more than they should get. I think, for someone to win a regular tour event is a big accomplishment and not too far below winning a major. But obviously the majors are on the best golf courses with the best fields. So they're clearly the cream of the crop, And the other part of that question was, what was my
It was in your opinion, the highlight of your career on tour.
The highlight, I won one tournament. So that was obviously a highlight. But truly, for me, just being a part of the tour, just being there for the 15 years, day in and day out, and being amongst the best players and playing with them and seeing what they do and learning from them and trying to do your best. Just being a part of it, it's a little bit like a carnival. You go from one week, you finish playing, you show up the next day, often in another town, and everything. The grandstands are all set up again, but the carnival, is the same group of 156 guys every week, pretty much. Some of the people change, but just being a part of that whole thing for me was really a dream come true.
It was interesting, Coach, to hear you mention the differences between, a major and between a regular tournament. Obviously, to the casual viewer like myself, I think that's where that kind of difference comes, where, like you said, there's more hype and more publicity around major tournaments, but it's the same group for the most part, traveling, week to week and going all over. And you got to play at quite an era of golf. When you look up and see you finished 7th at the Masters and see the leaderboard and the names that are on there, when you were playing and competing and succeeding in these tournaments for those 15 years, I know you mentioned it's kind of that same crew going from course to course, state to state. But what really, when you look back and maybe the things you impart on your Monmouth team now, what are those things that you most remember that stand out the most to you competing at the highest level for as long as you did?
I guess the things that stand out are the love that we all have for the game, the dedication that all the players have. When when a guy misses a cut, typically he's on that range the next morning, 8 o'clock. He's getting ready for that next week. I've seen that in some of the best players. Just guys, it's a little bit like survival. There's not that many players that really separate themselves from the rest. And no matter what generation we're watching, of course, Tiger and Mickelson, Vijay Singh, and guys like Ernie Els, they really separated themselves from. And today, Dustin Johnson and Justin Thomas, those guys are, a little bit separate from the rest of the top players. But what I take away from it is just that there's a little bit of a bond, even though you're competing against each other. We're not a team. It's 156 guys trying to beat each other. But at the end of the day, we would help each other on the range. And even if we were competing against each other next day, some of us might help each other out a little bit, and then we go play against each other and try and beat each other. But there was, I'd say a tremendous amount of respect. Wasn't so much for what kind of person you are, it was whether or not you could play. And if you could play, you earned the respect of the other players. And if you did play well, every player would recognize it and let you know that the following week or weeks later. So those are the things that I enjoyed so much. It was really the competition. I enjoyed that.
23 top 10 all-time finishes for Coach Britton in his time on the PGA Tour. Quite a remarkable career. And Coach, you alluded to in your previous answer some of the current guys that maybe stand out. Our next question comes in along those same lines. Philip is in Spring Lake tonight. Philip, thanks for watching Hawk Talk. And Coach Philip wants to know which golfers, and I know you mentioned a few already, but which golfers do you most enjoy watching now among the current group of professionals? And then also, it was another two-part question. Who from your time playing did you have the best relationship with? So who do you like watching the most now? And from your time on tour, maybe who were the guys that you were the closest with?
Well, I guess the players I like watching the most now would be Tiger, Phil Mickelson, and Vijay Singh. He's kind of moved on. He's gotten older. He's more on the senior tour and doesn't perform like he used to. But those were the guys that I enjoyed the most. Obviously, they've been the best, right? So I like watching. Have enjoyed watching them and trying to learn from them constantly. Of course, Dustin Johnson's been the best player in recent years. But there's a lot of really good young players now. The players that are playing at a high level, there's more really good young players now than there have been in past generations, at least from what I have seen. Usually in the past, it took players a longer time to get on the tour. But what's going on with golf now, I think there's better training. There's more competition, more opportunities for young players to compete elsewhere. So we're seeing kids come out of college, a couple of kids in particular this past year, Morikawa and this guy Wolf, they're ready to go. And I think it's because they start younger and compete at a younger age.
As we speak with Monmouth men's golf coach Bill Britton here tonight, it was so curious to be able to hear about those experiences, not only playing on tour, following it as closely as you have, Coach. And I know that you mentioned at the top of our conversation here tonight that maybe coaching in college was new for you, but not instructing the game, and to be able to be named among the best teachers and instructors of the sport of golf in New Jersey a couple of times. Again, you're a humble gentleman, but you've been recognized for being a tremendous instructor of the game. Yeah, as we wrap our conversation tonight, what is it about teaching the game of golf and now being able to do so for a group of college student athletes is really the most rewarding for you?
That's an interesting question. I find, believe it or not, I find hitting a golf ball fascinating. And I also find trying to perform at the highest level fascinating. So teaching, of course, you're trying to help that person to do those things, right? Perform as well as they can, and to hit the golf ball, whether it's a putt, chip, pitch, or a full swing, hit the ball correctly. So it's sometimes difficult to understand, why a ball goes where it goes. So I find that kind of fascinating to be able to figure that out and hopefully in a simple way help the person that I'm with. But I also have always really been interested in performance. And it's kind of ironic that I'm a coach now, because through the years I've always read books on coaches. Because as a golfer, even, I played high school golf and college golf. There wasn't much real coaching going on. It was more administrative type things. So I needed direction. I needed to know what I need to do as a player. So I would read about coaches and how they would coach and or teach their players, right? So, and some of those things helped me quite a bit as a player.
And quite the player that you were, going from Florida to obviously the PGA Tour and now to Monmouth University. And Coach, we really do want to thank you for joining us here this evening. And it was so interesting to be able to hear about those tremendous career experiences that you now bring to the coaching position at Monmouth University for the men's golf team. And Coach, wish you the best of luck as you enter this new year, whatever this competition looks like for the golf team in this new year. And thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thanks, Ed. It was a pleasure to see you and chat with you.
Coach, the pleasure was all mine, and that is Monmouth men's golf coach Bill Britton joining me here this evening, a member of the Staten Island Sports Hall of Fame and also the New Jersey PGA Hall of Fame. If you missed any of our conversation here tonight, you can check it out in a variety of places, youtube.com/Monmouth Hawks, in the video tab right here on the Athletics Facebook page, and as always at MonmouthHawks.com. For Coach Britton and our entire crew at the Monmouth Digital Network, I'm Eddie Acapinti saying good night from Hawk Talk.